that's here in person and everybody that is joining us online. I am Dr. Lawrence Hagquist, and I am the Executive Director of Educational Services for Pacific Grove Unified. And I'm here being joined by our Ethnic Studies teacher for next year, Miss Brandy Lopez. Brandy is here. And I wanted to recognize that we do have one board member in the audience, and this is Board Clerk Miss Jennifer McNary. I also want to recognize Director of Ed Technology who's helping me run this dual live in-person session and online session, Director Matthew Binder. And we have some more important dignitaries who are joining us online. And we have our Asian American representatives, Robert Kikuchi Ugojo. Is that how I pronounce it, Robert? Close enough, I hope.
Close enough. Ngoho.
Ngoho, very good. And Miss Nancy Wong.
Yes, excellent.
All right. And live here in person, we have another community partner for our Hispanic Latino population, and that's Dr. Joshua Orozco. And the representative from our Native American population, Miss Erin Myers Madera, could not join us tonight. We collaborated with her, but she did send a colleague of hers, Miss Mika Okamura. And unfortunately, Dr. Jeremiah Zunguzi cannot join us tonight. He had something come up at the last minute, but we will do our best to represent the work that we did with Dr. Zunguzi. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started by presenting today's agenda. Mr. Binder, if you could change to the next slide, please. So what we're going to go over tonight is we're going to give a little bit of a course background about this exciting new course for Pacific Grove High School. We'll talk a little bit about the background and the way that it aligns with our local control accountability plan, which is the governing document for our district. Ms. Lopez will be able to provide an introduction to the course that we've been designing throughout this year that she's very excited to teach. We'll talk a little bit about the way that we've been engaging community partners in the development process of this course. We'll go unit by unit to just give some highlights of each unit, which is based on the model curriculum provided by the state of California. And Brandy will also be presenting some of the signature assignments that she's planning to have in her class, and also some of the activities that she's excited about bringing to the students. And we will also have an opportunity to do a little bit of Q&A with the representatives that we have. So it's very excited to be able to bring everybody together after the work we've done. And then we'll allow an opportunity at the end for some closing remarks and input. This is a class that we are continually trying to develop, and we want to do our best. And I know Brandy has said this over and over again, that she really wants it to reflect the backgrounds of the students that she is teaching. So it's always going to be a work in progress. And the state model curriculum is just a really great foundation that we've started from in the development of this course. Next slide, please. A little bit of a background of this course. This is actually in the state of California, a course that is being mandated at the state level for public high schools to offer. It's mandated that every public high school offers a one-semester course in ethnic studies starting in the 2025-2026 school year. That is next year. And by 2029 and 2030, this course will be a graduation requirement. So many schools are implementing this course as a one-semester course. and not necessarily requiring every student to take the course. It's an elective. But we found that this course and the work that we've been doing and just in the deep work that we've been doing with cultural proficiency, that this course aligns perfectly with our cultural proficiency goals. And in relation to our local control accountability plan, we have 4 goals. And those goals, number 1 is an academic goal, right? We want to build a strong academic foundation for every student. Number 2 is a social emotional goal, right? We recognize that the emotional states and the social backgrounds that our students come from play a big role in their ability to succeed academically. So that strong social emotional support, we call it SEL, we've built into our LCAP goals. And then the third LCAP goal is around intervention and support. We believe that it's important that all students in our school succeed, right? So it's not just about having the highest test scores in the county because our top achievers are performing well. We want to make sure that we are closing achievement gaps, that we are providing the best quality education that we possibly can for every single student, regardless of their ability levels. So that third LCAP goal really speaks to our ability to provide intervention and support to all students. And then finally, the fourth LCAP goal is our cultural proficiency goal. This is the goal that speaks most strongly to our core value of belonging. We have 3 core values in our district: belonging, safety, and prosperity. And we feel that this course, by recognizing the backgrounds of so many different cultures and bringing those cultures together, celebrating our differences, that we can really enhance this culture of belonging. And we do have this wonderful synergy that's happening in this classroom because Ms. Lopez is also the leadership teacher on campus. So not only is she poised to be teaching this ethnic studies course and building belonging that way, but tying that into some of the leadership work that she does so that we really can impact the overall school culture. So we really do, build a culture where everyone feels like they belong and that their cultural backgrounds are celebrated. To that end, we are offering a 1-year course. This is different than what the state requires. As I mentioned, the state requires a 1-semester course starting next year. And we will be offering a 1-year course because Ms. Lopez has mentioned that she really is excited. She doesn't want to be limited in her rollout of this new course. She wants to be able to test out the curriculum, see what works, and really it's going to take a full year course to make that happen in the best way possible. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Lopez, who is going to provide an introduction to the ethnic studies course.
Hi, I'm Ms. Lopez. As Mr. Hagfest says, I'm the current world geography teacher, but I'll be next year's ethnic studies teacher, and I do teach leadership on top of that. I'm very passionate about ethnic studies. Like he said, I think that the best way to support a student is to support who they are as a person. And the one way we can do that is support where they come from and how they identify themselves. Ethnic studies is designed to support them from there and for us to learn about each other and for us to learn about everyone's cultural backgrounds and how that kind of sets them up for who they are and how they feel. I'm very excited for kids to explore kind of how these different ethnicities in our own community, how they contributed to this community and how we can be thankful and grateful. The course aims to foster this idea of critical thinking, cultural awareness, social responsibility by exploring the themes of identity, justice, and community engagement. And I really want to emphasize that community engagement part. That's where that leadership is going to come in, bringing in, acknowledging important holidays from different cultures and kind of like the and the why behind it. As someone who is Latina, like Dia de los Muertos means so much to me and my family because it proves that like those that we lose, they're not gone forever, and we can remember them once a year, and it brings back such more memories for us. So that's something I can identify with, and I cannot wait to share that part of my culture with my students. We had an amazing time collaborating with so many people. We collaborated with all the people that we've mentioned before, and I learned so much, and I put some personal books on my TBR so that way I can dive in because I was so intrigued and so there's so much here in this county. Well, that was me. In this county that we can explore and learn and dive deep into, and I cannot wait to do that with our students. Wait for the next. Okay, so like we said, we met with different people about once a quarter, a few times a month. And we kind of dove into what are the big things we want to accomplish? What are the big pictures that we want our students to see? So we had representatives come from the groups that were mentioned. We had an Asian American representative, we had an African American representative, Chicano Latino representative, as well as, I'm missing one, Native American, did I say Native? Okay, Native American. I am reaching out because I know there is a high population of the Middle East in our Middle Eastern American, in our county, I'll say our county, in our district. And I am reaching out to hopefully have something built over the summer because I do want them to feel seen and heard and celebrated as well. We held meetings for about an hour every morning, or not every morning, one morning. And we talked about what are the big picture chunks that we want to take away. What are the key terms and concepts we want our students to be able to understand and dive deep? We have essential questions that we're going to go over with you guys, and as well as topics. And kind of like he said, those signature assignments, what are our big goals? All right, I got a little nervous, guys, I'm in it.
All right, and the next slide, please. This is just our slide that shows pictures of our community members, but I think we want to go, if possible, a little bit deeper than just the pictures. So I will have those that are present introduce themselves and just give a little bit about their background and their interest in this work. And if you don't mind, we'll start online with Robert and Nancy.
Hello. Yeah, I am Nancy, and this is Robert, and we are called Ethnotech, and we have been working representing Asian American culture through folk tales and personal stories of the Asian diaspora.
And we've been working in schools for the last 42 years, all across the country, all the grade levels, K through 12. And the content is, some of it's traditional, some of it is expressing the Asian American experience as well.
So we are storytellers, and we have performed all over the world, but always, no matter where we are very interested in representing our culture, and at the same time being universal so that we build bridges. Our mission is to build cultural bridges that celebrate diversity and create compassionate communities through the art of storytelling. And as such, we have many stories that talk about our values and our what's important in our culture, and yet is also universal. And that way we are building bridges with our audiences, both by introducing our cultures to non-Asian peoples, and at the same time representing those Asian kids in the audience who have not seen themselves reflected on stage or in the media that much. And so, we see kids going, if we say, our next story is from the Philippines, and the children will go, yes, especially if they're Filipino, or same with Chinese, Japanese, Middle Eastern, Cambodian. So that's what we do.
And the stories, the traditional stories we do are neo-traditional. So it's a fusion of both East and West, ancient and modern. So it might be a Korean folk tale that looks like it's from far away and long ago, but it actually addresses social justice, or looking at people not from the outside of what they look like, but that their inside were connected as human beings. So we look for the social values in these ancient stories. And then with the Asian American content, like for example, one of the stories we share is about my mother's immigration from the Philippines and how she dealt with being monolingual Filipino and couldn't speak English. And then some event happened and she was able to open up and say her first words in English. So we do these stories really to bridge East and West, both American born and Asian.
Now that we're really very excited about making it available all over the country is Red Altar. And it's a story of the three generations of my family that started the fishing industry in Pacific Grove, Carmel, Monterey Bay area. And we have even a teacher's guide for it. It's a DVD, but it's also now a novel. So there's many ways to learn how these people from China were able to be successful despite prejudice, discrimination, laws being passed against them, how they succeeded with courage and determination and ingenuity. And we do workshops. So we do workshops around immigration with kids as well as adults.
And just wanted to let everybody in the room know that Robert and Nancy messaged me, I think it was yesterday or the other day. They said, is it okay if we join online so we don't have to drive 6 hours to be there? And I said, absolutely. But they were willing. That just spoke so loudly to me that they were willing to drive 6 hours to be here with us tonight. So I just want to say thank you so much. And Robert, if that picture looks a little bit odd to you, I was like trying to make them all fit, and I stretched it out and made it a little bit wider. So you might like, why is my face looking a little bit wider in that picture?
Too many carbohydrates. Yeah.
A lot of carbohydrates. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to bring your work with Red Altar alive in the classroom, right here, like at home, where the story takes place in Brandy's classroom. Super excited about that. And I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Josh Roscoe to talk a little bit about his background and his connection to this work.
Yeah, thanks. So Josh Orozco, my training is in philosophy, so I'm a professor of philosophy at my old institution at Whitworth University, and then was also an administrator in equity and inclusion and belonging at that same institution. And I guess I'll just speak a little bit from each of those angles about what connects me to this work. So as a philosopher, my training is in two different areas. One is in epistemology, which is like theories of knowledge, and thinking about like whose stories are we telling and who gets to be counted as sort of a disseminator of knowledge and who gets to receive knowledge. And I'm always thinking about who gets that say and how do we bring in more voices so that we become a more democratic, a more united culture. Another area that I'm interested in philosophy was sort of issues of ethics and social and political philosophy, and thinking about what should society look like so that everyone has opportunities to be successful, has opportunities to guide their own lives and to flourish as individuals. And so part of that is just trying to think about how our society is actually constructed, but then also who's being left out in our society, who's got power and who, for various reasons, has been left out of those power structures. And so then thinking about institutions, this is my role as an administrator, is thinking about how do we look at our own spheres of influence, whether it's at a classroom level or a school level or a more cultural level, and thinking about how do we as individuals sort of take on that responsibility to bring inclusion and belonging to our spheres of influence. What roles can we play? And so that sort of like mixes in really well when we think about those theories and those stories and say, okay, how do we use those stories to influence our own lives and shape the people and the institutions that we have influence over? I'm also a son of two Mexican immigrants. And so for me, those stories come in large part from my Latino heritage. And so as I've been sort of growing as an educator and as an administrator, I've often sort of just grown in adopting that heritage and using it as a way of influencing my approach to the classroom, but my approach to leadership as well, and helping people see the dynamics of my culture and how I can use that to make our community, our society better. And so my hope is, I'm so excited for the work that Brandy's doing, for that Larry's doing, in trying to create a class where different stories are being told, different cultures are being celebrated, and thinking creatively and helping our students think creatively about how to use those stories and those cultures and those backgrounds in ways that are gonna improve not just their learning and their education, but their lives moving beyond the classroom. So.
Very good. And as I mentioned earlier, the Native American representative that we collaborated with was Erin Myers Madera. And she couldn't make it tonight, but she did recommend Mika Okamura. And Mika, I'm so grateful that you're here. We didn't get a chance to, sit together and review the curriculum with you, but I know you're familiar. And if you could just give a little bit about your background and the work that you do.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to first give a little shout out to Erin, because she is an incredible woman who has a history of experience working with the Native people in this region. There's a difference here where there are no federally recognized tribes and there were not any reservations, land set up for them, but they experienced the mission system. So Erin really is an incredible leader in this local area. She, her work is so delicate, yet she finds her way, and she has modeled for me making mistakes, learning from them, and I'm just really grateful to be collaborating with her. My name's Mika. I'm so pleased to be here. I have started in undergraduate education space, and I think that, like many educators, I did it a little bit because I wanted to be the teacher that I didn't have. And so I started introducing myself, finding my way after many years of teaching. I would come the first day and say, my name is Mika, you can call me that, or Professor Okimura. I'm a queer Japanese American instructor, and I hope to teach you anti-racist oceanography. That wasn't the official title of the course, but I think that our students deserve things like that. So I have done my best to continue, like attended every SEL seminar and such, to try to really work in education for our students. I absolutely appreciate the efforts that are.
So your heart and your background is right here in this very space. Did you happen to attend the Rana Creek Ranch event?
On the 30th of
Yes.
November, yes.
Can you speak a little bit? I was at that event. It was wonderful. Can you speak a little bit about that event and what we did there?
Absolutely. We are having the opportunity, based on a long relationship of trust and community building that Erin has led. We were offered the invitation by the Esalen tribe of Monterey County to gather and discuss educators' role in teaching true histories and hear from the leaders of the Esalen Nation. it is such a gift to have both the chairman and vice chairwoman sharing their time, their stories. And over the next year or two, based on Assembly Bill 1821, we hope to be facilitators of a process in which, alongside this ethnic studies curriculum, there is a mandate for educators to be teaching true histories, which means colonization, which means genocide of the American people, and it means we have been here and we have still been here, speaking as if I were Native, but again, Japanese American. So that is an exciting venture that the Esalen and a growing collaborative of other tribes and nations local to this area are hoping to go on.
So thank you so much, and thanks once again for being here. Dr. Jeremiah Zunguzi could not be here tonight, but it's important for people to know that he, like all the rest of the partners here, are just, they are experts in their field, and they are the people that we are just so lucky to have and in this community. And he is a professor of ethnic studies at CSUMB. And it was just wonderful to be able to collaborate with him. We're gonna move forward and allow Brandy to just take us on a tour through this course that she's envisioned.
All right, so up first, I'm Native American Studies overview. So definitely things I want to hit is colonization and the doctrine of discovery, just like Ms. Okiwara. Did I say it right? Yes. Just like she said, that is a big part of what happened to our Native people here in America. Treaty rights and sovereignty, Native American activism, Indigenous worldview and the knowledge system, as well as environmental justice and land rights. I know I was the previous 8th grade history teacher at PGMS, and I know I do go over this with them, and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to dive deeper with them and to us really look into it. Some recommended readings from Erin was an Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. Gonna take some excerpts out of that. The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. The Red Deal, Indigenous Action to Save Our Earth by the Red Nation. And the signature assignment for that unit will be write a persuasive argument on Native American sovereignty concerning land rights. I definitely want to have, I'm a big believer in project-based learning. So I do want to implement different ways that students can collaborate and work together, but I do believe that kind of owning up to our own knowledge and reaching out in that way is important as well. So there will be a couple of independent assignments throughout the unit. I'm really excited to dive into this because as Erin was talking, I was, again, books added to my TBR. I don't know enough, but I do know that when it was introduced to me as a young learner, I did dive deep into like Cherokee, and I remember having a book of Native American myths, and just they were so beautiful how they depicted, you know, like the sun and the moon and what they meant, and I am excited to hopefully instill that love of learning this with them. The next one is Asian American Studies. So this was collaborated with Nancy and Robert. Some key terms and concepts is the Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese internment that happened during World War II, the model minority myth, the Asian American labor movements, and the Pan-Asian identity. So, fun fact, I went to high school in Tulare, California. So if you're familiar with the Central Valley. I was an adult when I learned that an internment camp was at the Tulare Fairground. And it blew my mind because I thought about being in high school, eating a funnel cake, going on the little rides. And I was standing on something really, really historical. It's lovely that Tulare's, one of their high schools, Mission Oak, actually dove deep into that history and interviewed some Japanese Americans there, and they put up a monument within the last, I think, 5 or 6 years. So they too are doing the work, and I thought that was really beautiful, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Some reading and signature assignments: The Making of Asian America by Erica Lee, an exploration of the Asian American experience from historical and contemporary perspectives. Minor Feelings: An Asian American Reckoning by Kathy Park Hung. a critical examination of the complexity of Asian American identity. No No Boy by John Okada, a novel addressing the experiences of Japanese Americans during and after World War II. The signature assignment for this unit will be researching and presenting a historical case study of an Asian American social movement, highlighting its legacy and encouraging peer discussion. I'm a big advocate for choice, and I think that this signature assignment allows kids to dive deep into which one of those movements speaks to them, or which one are they intrigued in, and they can dive deeper. So there will be so many things that the students can learn and have the ability to choose which one stood out to them the most.
And we don't want to forget Red Altar too.
Red Altar too, I did not, sorry Nancy and Robert,
It will be part of that for
I
sure.
promise. The next one is African American Studies. So talking with Jeremiah, I was really excited his feedback was so, like, it definitely made me open my eyes. He suggested that we start off with African kingdoms and understanding the many rich cultures of Africa pre-colonization. Because Africa has always been so rich, and their kingdoms have always been so intriguing. And I remember reading a book in world history class, I'll be honest, but I can't remember what it's called. And then diving into what happens after. So slavery and Reconstruction, Jim Crow laws, the civil rights movement, and systematic racism. So these are heavy key terms and concepts, but also understanding that there are so many rich and amazing things that African Americans have contributed to America and to our culture.
And did you want to remind everybody what Jeremiah kind of warned us about when we sat with him? I thought that was really insightful.
At the beginning, we did have slavery and Reconstruction kind of our starting piece. And Jeremiah said, when you start with that, you start with objectifying them. You're putting them into the perspective of property. And that, whoa, like it made me take a step back and look, like he's 100% right, because that was where it all started. They weren't seen as humans, they were seen as property to be exchanged. So I'm really glad, and I have so many ideas of how to start with African kingdoms, making kids get into groups right off the bat and researching them and presenting the different ways that these kingdoms were rich in culture and how they lasted, the dynasties and what they were known for. The readings and signatures assignments for this unit will be readings include The Souls of Black Folk and Letter from a Birmingham Jail. A signature assignment is writing a persuasive argument on systematic racism's legacies. And students will be able to address reparations and develop a position supported by historical and contemporary examples. Really wanting to give them the ability to form opinions and kind of like have the resources at their fingertips. Chicano and Latino Studies Overview worked with Josh. So key terms and concepts, Mexican-American War and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and how it shaped Latinx identity, the Chicano movement fostering cultural pride and social justice activism, immigration and border policies impact Latinx communities today, and intersectionality examines overlapping social identities and related systems of oppression. When I think about Chicano movements, I think about Walkout, and I loved that movie with Alexa Vega. Reading and signature assignments, La Raza Cósmica by Jose, I'm gonna butcher that last name, Vasconcelos. Okay. Explores the cosmic identity of that Latinx community. There's so many different countries that make it up. Harvest of Shame by Edward R. Murrow critiques the treatment of farm workers. The Borderlands, La Frontera by Gloria Anzaldúa discusses cultural and personal identity, and having the signature assignment being creating an advocacy campaign on immigration reform, engaging in debate and present findings. That's one thing I know about kids, is they love to argue. And they love to argue when they feel like they're right. So I can imagine that this is gonna turn out to be, I'm excited for that one. The signature assignments are, so those are the 4 main units. Of course, we're going to go over so many more cultures within that. The signature assignments are designed to have students be able to deepen their understanding of what they're learning about. not enough that they learn and they're kind of like, yeah, okay, this is important, but why are they learning it and what impacts does this have? Kind of like at the beginning, I don't want them to just know like, yeah, we did some things, especially when it comes to those heavy units, but like, wow, look at all these amazing contributions that they've given us. Like, let's be thankful for Mexican food. Like, let's look at their cultural influence. Everyone loves cocoa. Everyone cries with cocoa. I get it, but there's so much more to Dia de los Muertos than cocoa. Students being able to analyze primary documents, having them be able to really read and understand what they're looking. This is going to be, I am a history teacher first and foremost. So looking at that and the importance of it, the processing, and I think it says peer feedbacks, and I think students, I can talk for days, and then half of them are just gone. But when their peers are teaching them, they tend to learn more and they tend to get more intrigued when it's peer taught versus me talking up here for 30 minutes a day. So I think that having that ability to collaborate with your peers, whether it's project-based or just feedback based on signature assignments, like they're going to take it more seriously than me telling them something, right? Like being a parent, I get it, guys. I'm not one, but I get it.
And I just remember Dr. Orozco talking to us with us about using those primary documents, right? And how you have experience using those same documents in teaching students and the value in that. So that was a big change that came from our collaboration there.
Yeah. All right, course outline. Okay, I wanted to make sure it matched. Unit 1, we're gonna go over key terms. We're going to really focus on the African American unit, looking at slavery, Reconstruction, looking at those African kingdoms, Jim Crow laws, civil rights, Black power, systematic racism. Went over the signature assignment. Unit 2, we're looking at the Chicano Latinx unit, looking into the Mexican American War, Chicano movement, immigration policies, Latinx, etc. Unit 3, we're going to focus on that Asian American unit. That's a big unit. There's so many Asian countries, and I want to give them all justice. So Chinese Exclusion Act, Japanese internment, model minority myth, etc. And then Unit 4, we're going to end it right here at home with the Native American unit, really looking into colonization, treaty rights, and indigenous activism. It's going to be a lot, it's going to be heavy, but I'm going to make it as fun as I can. We did receive some supplementary films and readings from our partners, which I'm excited to dive into. So for the Native American studies, it's California Native American Genocide in the Fullerton Observer, Bad Indians by Deborah Miranda, Two Ways of Knowing, an interview with Robin Wall in Sun Magazine. Sorry, that was bad. Asian American Studies, Rep Alter, there it is, Nancy and Robert. Strong Like Bamboo, Stories of Resilience for Healing in the Era of Anti-Asian Violence. African American Studies, some supplemental readings and film is 1619 Project, a New Origin Story by Nicole Hannah-Jones, as well as scenes from the movie The Woman King. It's with Viola Davis. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. And for Chicano and Latinx, La Raza Cosmica, again, that excerpt, Harvest of Shame, more excerpts, and then Borderlands / La Frontera by Gloria Andalua. Some more excerpts. Okay, I need water.
Thank you, Brandy. And I just wanted to speak very briefly about the engagement. We mentioned this earlier with our community partners. And this is just kind of a list of some of the collaboration dates going back to the beginning of the year. And this is something that Brandy and I have been working along all the way, back to the meeting that we had with our department chair, Laura Lee Gaona, with our meeting with our superintendent, Dr. Linda Adamson, who is also in the room. And so that's just a list of some of those dates.
All right. So this kind of just goes over how we selected the materials and how we planned the activities. And it's really just a very nice way of saying, I love reaching out to our community partners and asking for help. I want to do this course justice, and I can only truly do it justice when it comes to the Chicano and Latinx, because that's my own personal experience. I have no problem reaching out for help. And that is exactly why we have these community partners. Because I, as much as I want to be an advocate and be an ally, can never truly understand what it's like to be Asian American or African American or their struggles, or Native American and their struggles. So with that, they were able to give us more materials and more things so that way I can read and I can learn and I can learn alongside the kids. And I think that's something that I've learned as a teacher is being honest and saying, like, you know what? I don't know the answer to everything. They tend to have a lot more respect and then they tend to be like, it's okay. It's okay if I don't know everything. I don't expect you to walk in and be Webster's Dictionary or Google. Like, I want to learn with you and we're going to learn together. All right, that's you guys.
That's, thanks again, Brandy, and just what you just said about learning with the students. I mean, that is just right there with what we believe is the most powerful kind of teaching that can happen. And that's like when the teacher is the lead learner, right? That is there with the students, bringing them together, allowing them to collaborate. We have many, many brilliant people in the room tonight and that we've collaborated with. And are brilliant lecturers as well, right? But we know that our capacity for just listening does not necessarily always lead to rich and meaningful lifelong learning. So I just really appreciate that comment. So I wanted to hand it over to the audience to open it up to questions, and please know that this is an engagement meeting. Suggestions are welcomed. We will be taking notes on any suggestions that you have, the ways that we can enrich the work that we are doing, and or any questions you have for these luminaries that we have in the room tonight.
Will you be incorporating any field trips for this class locally? Given our area,
Type in notes.
So the one thing we are doing is Brandy does have opportunity to do some planning. She's getting paid for planning over the summer, so this is still in development. We made it a point to ask each one of our collaborators if they would visit the classroom for like live visits with the students. So that will be happening. And great question about the field trips. Field trips, we know how powerful those field trips can be.
buses, budgets tight, but I don't know.
It will absolutely be a consideration.
I think it would be fun. It would be fun. I think it would be fun.
Any other questions, comments?
Online, you can too.
There's one just-
There we go, Jessica.
All right, thanks for this. The resources look really great, source materials. I have a question. I don't want to presume this hasn't happened, but if it hasn't, I would highly urge you to think about a community partner, whether it's from a college or somewhere else, on also incorporating some of the important concepts around dialogue across difference. And some of the work that's being done across higher ed right now, given where things have landed and what's going on right now across our country. And to set this up for success and to actually make it an opportunity for true critical thinking and truly to help get our students, my kids, ready for being successful as adults and in college as well when they get into more critical thinking, to be able to actually navigate and withstand and have true conversations across diverse opinions. The sort of language is in there, but I'm not very confident, given everything that's happening around us, that anybody has found a good way to ensure that we are actually setting up for success and making that actually happen. And so I obviously, in a case of a high school course, this is incredibly important for the teacher to be trained in that and to be very good at leading in that and creating that space, so that things, instead of blowing up, becoming divisive and seeing a reproduction of the same types of issues that are kind of, rending people apart across this entire country. I would just love to know how you're thinking about that. There's a lot of great programs out there that are working hard on, even in the most difficult, challenging areas, supporting and creating successful dialogue across difference.
That is a wonderful recommendation. And I know that Brandy has familiar with a Socratic seminar approach, which is really a helpful way to engage dialogue. It emphasizes our attempt to avoid getting into debate right away, right? So encouraging dialogue rather than debate. And I know Dr. Orozco, I see you nodding your head. I know that you have you have familiarity with this type of work as well. So wonderful recommendation.
Yes, and I'm also looking into attending an ethnic studies workshop for a week in Berkeley. So I'm sure that there will be opportunities, because I know that this is something that is probably going to be discussed. And I'm definitely looking at, because you're 100% right, Jessica, like being able to have a safe space where students can share and not feel judged or not feel pressured to not share for fear of judgment. Thank you for mentioning that.
We have 3 comments online.
Okay.
The chat, one coming from Burr, good presentation, nice work. I support your plan for implementation. The other one's coming from Yara. Looking forward to see how the Arabic community will be integrated.
Wonderful.
My son is 50-50, Navajo and Jordanian Egyptian. Thank you. And then the third comment here, I agree. Thank you for this must reference to previous comment. Thank you for the great collaboration and hard work for the community representatives. And Ms. Lopez, our children, students are in great hands. Thank you for this great program and curriculum. We are thankful to all of you giving our students these opportunities.
Thank you.
And Dallas is
Dallas.
also online with a comment as well, I believe, or a question.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're super excited about this curriculum and this course. So a question or suggestion is to consider a unit or a way of framing around thinking about the construction of whiteness, social construction of whiteness and inclusion in the transition of successive waves of European immigrants who on their initial waves of migration were not considered to be white or were not considered to be American, and then have been invited or now included in one of the trainings I've attended called the Club of Whiteness. And in the Monterey Peninsula, the example I think that's pretty prominent would be the Italian communities, the Sicilian Italian community. There's stories of the KKK coming to town to sort of oust them, and the sheriff or chief of police of Monterey basically rebuffing them with firearms. Is just an example of how the community was kind of taking a stand around that. But I mean, it happens with German Americans, encoded in my last name as anti-German sentiment, which was anglicized from a lot more V's and C's and other letters post World War I anti-German sentiment. Southern Eastern European, not in that, but the big kind of point is I think especially in our community where we have a relative lack of diversity in our student body compared to some other places, I find it really useful for people to think about their history and their ancestries, about how their positionality may not have been in the past, sort of in when you're not seeing your history or community or family represented in the main kind of framing of the units, and sort of kind of having some conversation or understanding about how that changes over time, or for some people, but not for others.
Dallas, are you, it sounds like you attended a training on this. It sounds like you're right there doing this work.
Well, yeah, I'm on faculty at UCLA, so we have a lot of health equity or equity trainings, but we also did an anti-racism training a number of years ago, which was really informative. So yeah, so I've experienced a lot of these. I also 100% support that idea that was the first comment raised about really having some really strong facilitation skills. I definitely have gotten into trouble trying to facilitate discussions around this and not being well trained and not being well supported. And it really backfiring and creating a lot of problems back in 2019. So that was a long time ago, but yeah, and I was an anthropologist by training and others, but yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, and myself as a Italian American, half Italian American, though it's not encoded in my name, I think about these things a lot, and I think about a lot of my relatives who have kind of forgotten their history and who they are in these current times. So yeah, thanks for having this space to take suggestions.
Thank you so much. Sounds like we have a valuable resource right there.
I wrote his name down. I got this. I'll be reaching out.
Great, happy to chat
More
anytime.
on- 3 more on comments here. This is coming from Bergen. Adult Ed has great curriculum and resources for immigrant integration. Migrant Ed is also a good resource. Here's one from Randy Buckley. Really grateful for the course, presentation, and thoughtful comments and considerations. Off to get the books to learn along. And Robert is commenting as well. I encourage the cross-cultural, cross-community partnerships, especially in the Monterey region, such as the significance of Filipino and Mexican farm workers, unit of labor movement. Philip Vera Cruz and Larry Itilion were essential Filipino leaders in the formation of United Farm Workers. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, Robert, thanks. I think I butchered Larry's last name. But it's okay. I'll get him later.
Any other online hands up?
Of course, this one is right in my face.
Well, we are right here, hitting up right on about an hour, which is what we had planned for. We want to just take a moment and say thank you for everybody that is here, and everybody that joined us online. We're so grateful for the community that we are surrounded by. Without this community, this subject in this class wouldn't work. It wouldn't exist. So just wanted to extend our gratitude. And we will be posting this online, and thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
See you guys next year. Thank you. I said a couple of